Have you ever wondered what the different effects of a nuclear explosion on animals, plants, and people are? Due to the Chernobyl power plant nuclear disaster, most people were forced to evacuate the premises, their homes, but animals are now thriving in this radiation zone. Though people won't be able to live too close to Chernobyl for another 20,000 years, animals seem to be doing okay in the area. Pripyat was a thriving city before the nuclear disaster occurred. To trumpet the wonders of the atomic town of Pripyat, the city council had prepared a glossy book filled with vivid color photographs of its happy citizens at play. Higginbotham 50. According to the book Midnight in Chernobyl, families were able to attend 1 out of 5 schools, 3 swimming pools, 35 different playgrounds, and a variety of beaches along the river. According to Higginbotham, across the stream, new homes were being built for the workers of the Chernobyl plant. The families living in Pripyat, for the most part, clearly lived happy lives, but suddenly it was all taken away from them. As said in Midnight in Chernobyl, things did often go wrong at the plant. They were constantly testing all of the reactors. During the building process, they constantly found themselves low on supplies and often had to wait longer than needed for the supplies to arrive. The workers were beginning to run low on sleep as a new fault was discovered often. They had been told that radiation was so harmless you could spread it on bread. Higginbotham 60. Chernobyl truly was not in good hands, and they constantly found new things to be worried about. This should have worried those in charge more so than it did before the accident occurred. According to Higginbotham, the Rengen levels were raising quickly after the fire. It jumped from 10 to 2,800 within the snap of fingers. Quickly, radiation was in the air. One worker died on the spot due to the explosion. People were evacuated as quickly as possible. Not only were people killed by the accident, but animals and plants were killed as well. Now, the Chernobyl site is very dangerous toward the human race and should be avoided as much as possible. According to Kate Brown, author of Manual for Survival, A Chernobyl to the Future, the amount of deaths ranges from 31 to 54 on the websites of the UN agencies. She also claims that in 2005, it was estimated that there would be thousands of deaths due to cancer from the radiation. There is no clear-cut number of deaths or possible deaths caused by cancer, however. But with these alarmingly high estimates, it is clear humans should stay away from the area. Human lives and health are at risk. Symptoms include nausea, vomiting, hemorrhaging, and hair loss, followed by a collapse of the immune system, exhaustion of bone marrow, disintegration of internal organs, and finally, death. Higginbotham 71. These are just some of the examples of what could happen if exposed to an extreme amount of radiation. Radiation is invisible to the eye and you cannot smell it. However, radiation in high doses can also cause burns and rashes to the skin, and if intense enough, can cause change in DNA, which can also cause cancer. Due to the high radiation level in Chernobyl, this could happen to anyone who visits, especially in a high-level radiation area, no matter how long they're there for. Recently, according to the New York Times, there have been wildfires nearby the Chernobyl power plant. The fire stirred up the radiation. The radiation had slowly started to soak into the vegetation, but due to the fire, is now being spread. However, the amount of radiation being spread is low and is considered to be a safe amount. The main threat is the high winds that blow the contaminated ashes toward populated cities. Though the Chernobyl power plant and the area surrounding is very dangerous to humans, habitats are actually being built in this seemingly poisonous area. According to National Geographic, signs of wildlife were everywhere. Wendell 1. Many different types of wild animals have about 1,000 square miles of free range in this radiation site. According to Wendell, there are rare and endangered species of animals that are now thriving in Chernobyl. Wolves especially have begun to live in the deserted area. Though these animals seem to be living in a safe haven away from hunters and poachers, there sadly is no ensuring people will not illegally continue to kill the animals, despite the radiation levels and the risk they are taking. Despite the illegal killings of some of these rare and non-rare animals, more and more species are beginning to show up in the area. Many questions remain about the extent to which radiations cause mutations in various species and whether these species could spread outside the zone. Main 1. Scientists believe there is a health risk due to the remaining levels of radiation in the area. National Geographic states a study was done by tagging 13 different wolves that traveled through the area and were baffled to see that one had traveled over 200 miles away from the Chernobyl site and into Russia. This leads to the question of, are the animals spreading the mutations by mating with other animals? According to National Geographic, mutations are becoming less and less common and were more common toward animals that were there when the nuclear disaster happened. Animals that did have the serious mutations were not able to reproduce, and most died after only a few hours. However, the animals living in the area will possibly forever be mutated due to their constant changes in their DNA from all the exposure of radiation. However, these changes seem to be helping the animals thrive in such a poisonous place that is not for humans to live in. Though mutations are something to consider, we also can't ignore the fact that wildlife is flourishing in this ghost area now more than it was a little over 30 years ago, before humans were forced to leave the area. Animals ranging from dogs to bison, deer to horses, are now taking refuge in this humanless area. Studies have shown the radioactive activity possibly has less effect on the animals rather than the threat of the human race. This is due to less people taking the risk of hunting these dangerous animals. Due to the Chernobyl power plant nuclear disaster, people were forced to evacuate their homes, but animals are now luckily thriving in this radiation zone. Many people do wonder and study the different effects a nuclear explosion has on plants, animals, and humans. Though the Chernobyl nuclear accident caused thousands of people to evacuate and lose their homes, wildlife has begun to flourish in this ghost area, despite possible mutation in the animals. Though Chernobyl wasn't in good hands in the first place and shouldn't truly have been running, it turns out the accident was and should continue to turn into a safe haven for many animals. Are mutations in animals a risk we are willing to take in order to help wildlife flourish?